Are you sick of looking through your spellbook only to cast Fireball for the 3rd time? I hope not. Fireball's great.
Oh god, why?
But if you ever wanted more options than that, I've got you covered. So here are 5 brand new homebrew spells that you can use at your table today. Starting off, we have the 2nd level Primordial Shock. You send a blast of elemental energy towards a target you can see within 30 feet. You can choose between thunder, cold, or fire damage, and each element has a different effect. Fire Shock deals the most damage, dealing 2d6 damage up front and setting the target ablaze for an additional d6 at the end of their turns if they fail a dex save. Frost Shock deals 2d6 cold damage and reduces an enemy movement speed by 10 feet until they succeed on a Constitution save at the end of their turn. And Thunder Shock deals 2d6 damage and forces a Constitution save, or that creature becomes stunned until the end of their next turn. The entire idea of this spell was a little bit of everything. It really leans into the whole elements idea, and I tried to imitate that with the effects. The spell itself doesn't deal much in the way of damage, but considering the range of effects that can pull off, I'd say it's well worth a spot in your spellbook. So if you ever need the Swiss Army knife of spells, look no further than Primordial Shock. Next up, we move away from damage and into the realm of healing with the 1st level spell, Rejuvenation. Call upon the natural healing energies of a creature you can see within 30 feet to rejuvenate their body. The creature can expend 1 of their hit die and at the start of their turn, regain the rolled amount of hit points plus your spellcasting ability modifier. Anyone who's been playing 5th edition for any length of time always has a weird reaction when I give them this spell. It feels both overpowered and yet underpowered at the same time, and in order to alleviate that feeling, I place it as a 1st level concentration spell. This allows it to be an accessible healing spell, but not without its risks. Since it utilizes hit dice, the more you use this spell, the less you have to use during a short rest. And considering its concentration up to a minute, you could easily wipe out an ally's entire pool of hit die if you're not careful. But in the end, I think this is a really unique way to add some fun new healing mechanics into the game. Now we move back into the realm of damage with a spell that I call Crystalized Arcana. This 4th level spell pulls in energy from the weave, forming it into 3 jagged crystals of purified arcana. You can send these crystals towards any creature you can see within 60 feet, making attack rolls against each. The crystals deal 3d8 damage on a hit, but if all 3 crystals hit the same target, they siphon arcana around them, rendering them unable to cast spells until the end of their next turn. Being brutally honest, this spell is super powerful. However, this spell also functions like Scorching Ray, meaning that each crystal has a separate attack to hit. And even though these crystals do deal a significant chunk of damage, the silence effect does not occur unless every single crystal hits the same target. The probability of this working against a single powerful creature is pretty low, which makes this spell kind of fall into a weird place of a high risk, high reward type of spell. But if you like to live life on the edge, then Crystallized Arcana is the spell for you. But now we move on to my personal favorite spell for today's list, and that is one that I call the Threads of Fate. This is a 5th level divination spell that lasts up to an hour. Your eyes flash with divine energy, allowing you to see the Threads of Fate. While concentrating, you can see invisible threads connecting all living creatures within 120 feet of each other. The more personal the connection between 2 creatures, the thicker and brighter the thread. For example, 2 creatures that don't know each other might have a thin fishing line connecting them both, while brothers would have something like a thick hempen rope or even chains. If you couldn't guess, this spell is purely for story purposes, but I think it is a really fun way to gain some additional insight into the game. Imagine you capture a criminal and you bring him to the king to get a reward. When you deliver him, you cast Threads of Fate and see a strong connection between the criminal and the king or a guard, and that means that the 2 of them probably isn't the first time they've talked. Or even something as simple as talking to patrons at a tavern and seeing how different patrons are connected. There are so many ways this spell can go, but I think it's a great way to interact with the world around you and learn more about the game as you go. So if you're one of those players that likes to get as much information as possible, take a look at Threads of Fate because I'm sure you'll find some interesting connections. And finally, we're finishing this list off going right back to combat with a spell that I call the Writhing Malice. This 2nd level necromancy spell curses a target you can see within 60 feet. The next time you deal damage to that target, the curse activates and implodes around the creature, dealing 3d8 necrotic damage to every creature of your choice within 10 feet of the cursed target. Once the curse is activated in this way, it fades from the target. For a second level spell, the damage is really nothing to write home about. You might even think that it's underpowered, especially considering that it requires an action to cast. But think about it like this. You just placed a remote explosive on a target, and to detonate it, all you have to do is hit them. For the combat enthusiasts out there, this can lead to some really fun strategy trying to figure out the ideal time to activate the curse. Depending upon how the spell plays out, you can deal more damage than a third level fireball. And it is definitely a great example of another high risk, high reward spell. So while this spell does take a little bit more finesse to make it really worthwhile, it can easily be worth pulling out in a tricky situation. But those are 5 brand new homebrew spells that you can use at your table today. If you liked the video, I would really appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, and let me know what you thought in the comment section below. I read every comment, almost always reply, and who knows, I might even feature your comment in the next video. Also, huge thank you to our YouTube members and patrons. If you see any of these names in the comment section below, be sure to give them a thumbs up for being cool dudes. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday.